Начинаем. Зал у нас полный. Доброе утро.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure and privilege to see a lot of people early in the morning, third day of the forum. I'm very happy to see you all here. All the speakers are here. And we have full classroom. I hope that we will have a very interesting discussion. The topic is the experience in search for a valued employee, cooperation between the firms and the high school. So we have the representative of both academic and business circles to discuss this issue. We will do our utmost to take a look at these questions from three angles. I'm going to have questions to the audience as well. The participants of our discussion, I'm going to be very brief introducing them, the name and the companies, because the next question of mine will be, I'll ask our speaker to brief us on the higher school or the company we're working for. I'm not going to speak at length. Yelena Kalugina, head of the Career Development Center. I start from my left. RANEPA, Galina Sidich Hankel of Russia, Julia Jarek, L'Oreal Vorsina Factory, Marina Shilanova, SCA Hygiene Products. And you're going to tell us about the change of the name and the changes in the years to come. Yelena Lapatina, HP Hewlett Packard. I think that HP is not well known to everyone. HP is Hewlett Packard. Olga Gerasimova Paulik and Natalia Maximova, NISI's Center for Development Director. My name is Olga Bansakina. I'm the head of the Common Services Representation Office in Russia. I'd like the discussion to be very interactive. So even though I have prepared some questions, a number of questions to the participants of our panel, nobody knows what question to expect. And I would like the discussion to be very interactive and very interesting for all of us to get something new, interesting, to share the experience, to look at each other, and maybe to get something new which will help us further on. What is important I'd like to start with, before giving the floor to you for the introduction, we all have difficulties. All the three circles have the difficulties in terms of the employees. The companies are always in search for the staff. The higher schools face difficulties with preparing the students. The students don't know what they learn and how they will be able to apply the knowledge gained at the high school, even though the high school is very good and how to apply this knowledge and find the company of the dream. And you need to find the right place to apply knowledge and expertise further on, to have interest in development and promoting further skills. So the task of all these three sides are not very simple due to demographic situation in the country. We haven't overcome the crisis yet. There is a bottom in the horizon, but we haven't reached it yet. So the companies face difficulties finding this stuff. So we're going to talk about this today, which difficulties we have, how to find the solution, and how to find the common ground for all the parties to be very fruitful in this very complicated process. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm a very harsh moderator. I'm going to take a look at the timing. We have 1.5 hours, so the introduction should take the introduction of yourself, and the company or the high school should take 3 minutes as maximum. I would like to start with Natalia Maximova. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'd like to brief you on the story. I started to work for Mrs. 6 years ago. After 20 years of experience working in methodological companies, I was responsible for preparation of graduates, adaptation, and the development, of course, the career promotion of young specialists. But I would like to tell a couple of words about myself. I'm worried about 5 things. The first one is the first professional diagnostics I got at 30 years when I had my second education process. I was responsible for everything, but I didn't focus on the best things. And I didn't have enough courage to present myself and my ideas. And I learned that for a long period of time. And the fourth one, during the student years, I didn't even think about the place to work for. And the fifth, I didn't follow my dreams. I followed the expectations of others. And these 5 things I was worried about before I went to Mrs. And now I'm responsible for the career development. I advise to all of you that you need to do that even if you are in high school just by accident. This is just brief introduction. A couple of words about the high school you work for. I never introduce my high school because all of them are the same and all of them have the talented staff and teachers. It is very important to find yourself, even if you haven't found the right occupation. There is always a place for development and self-realization, and on our platform, I'm not going to introduce my high school, but I can introduce my colleagues and myself. You know, the problem is that neither high schools nor companies know how to work with each other and how to find the common ground. This is a big problem. Working in methodological industry, I was happy to be the director for the educational center and Uralsky Polytechnical Conventional School. At the same time, these are different ideas, and I wrote different letters, and I thought I was going to get crazy because of the work I had. The expectations of the employers are one thing, and the high schools are preparing different stuff. These are 5 principles I have mentioned already, which the young specialist should take a look at. And the earlier you start to ask the questions, where you want to work, whom you want to become, what you like to do more, which company, check this company, whether it complies with the values and missions it sets, then you're going to find the way. We have a number of projects which is implemented by Mrs. and our colleagues know that we deal with the case contest, real business case contest together with our partners. We have a very strong leadership school to prepare professional navigators and mentors, as very often without experience in the industry, they don't even understand what the industry wants. I realized that if we didn't prepare the guys developing them, we're not able to solve the tasks which are in front of the career centers. And we have developed a program which is called New Level, and we try to engage first-year students, about 350 students, developing career events and the cooperation with the industry. So we increase the level of their preparation and get them ready for the occupation in the companies. Natalia, thank you very much. Olga, so the floor is yours. Good morning to everyone. My name is Olga Gerasimova. I'm the HR of Pauli company. I'm going to talk about the origin of the name. In 1871, the German young entrepreneur Gustav Paulik went to Finnish county in the Russian Empire and decided to establish a startup company. He borrowed money from the Russian entrepreneur, Sini Brukhov, arranged a business of colonial products outlet. Those were coffee, spices, sugar, rice. At the first year of the company was very successful. They sold 7% of all the imported coffee to the Russian Empire. And what is the connection between Finland and coffee? People are very always interested. A Finnish company sells coffee. You know, the Finnish actually consume the biggest amount of coffee per capita. They drink about 12 kilos of coffee per capita a year. We're talking about the coffee in kilograms, but not liters. So the company changed. The company was growing, and some products disappeared from the assortment. You know, we are quite sad about the cognac leaving our range of products, coffee and spices, and we are represented by two coffees, the coffee brand Paulik. We sell only natural coffee, which we produce in Finland and Russia. This is instant coffee and natural coffee. And Santa Maria brand for spices. This is an ethnical cuisine, ready-to-use sauces. And the mission of our company is to open a new taste, new flavor. Everything connected with taste and flavor is about us. Everything we do, we try to do with taste. We like to live. We always set ambitious goals in Russia. Paulik entered Russia in 1992 because the registration certificate and national register was signed by the head of the International Affairs Commission by Mr. Putin. Therefore, we have the official documents signed by the President of the Russian Federation that we have the right to operate in Russia. As of today, we have about 220 people working for our company. And as I have said, this is a team of people who are interested in what they do. I don't like to speak about myself very much. I've been at this position from 1998. I started as an assistant in the HR department, and now I'm the head of the HR department. I have 2 higher educations, degrees. I started my career not in HR, but I started when I was a student. So the topic of today is very close to me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. Thank you very much, Olga. So Yelena, the floor is yours. Good morning. My name is Lopatova Yelena. I'm from HP company. The company was established in 2015 as a spin-off Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. HP Inc. was responsible for the development of personal computers and printers. Now the company I work for is HP Incorporated, and the second company is Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, is a different division. I've been working for the company more than 8 years, and I'm responsible for the development of personnel in Eastern Europe, including 14 countries, and Russia is a very important part of the region. I've been working for the HR department over 10 years. Very brief. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Good morning. My name is Shalama Maria. I'm representative of SCT company. You might get confused because the company used to be SCI. Is a very interesting company. It has a unique history. Is the biggest owner of forest in Europe, in Sweden, has unique technologies to increase the forest land. Last year, the company divided its business into 2 directions. The shareholders are still the same. One company is called SCA. The same story as has been was before. The company is still growing forests and recycle timber and wood, producing paper. And the second company is called SCD, Essentials and Necessities. This is the hygienic products, everyday products. This is about us. The name of the company is not going to tell you much about us. This is absolutely new, which emerged last year. This January, we're going to change the name of our legal entity in Russia. I hope that you know our brands and you like our brands. Libera is the best friend of juniors. All our ladies live free with Libres. And I hope that all of you use toilet papers of our brand. You know our products. I hope that you love our products. We have two divisions which are not that well known by our consumers. It's Stork brand. If you enter the business center, in the hotel, in the restaurant, in the toilet, you can see big dispenser, this name Torque. That is us. So we produce not only toilet papers, but different hygienic products to wash your hands, to clean your hands. Torque is engaged in the production, different materials for the kitchen, for the restaurant, for the assembly line where you need to clean some spares. It's a big B2B sector. This is not B2C sector. That's why you might never heard about this. We have a group brand Tana, which is the medical purpose. We produce different products to assist those who have some problems. And last year, the company bought the medical business, which is called BSA. We are not represented in Russia yet. Leica Plus brand, probably that you've heard about this, when we used this special tape for our wounds and injuries, everything we used as a tape. This is our brand, and we hope to enter the Russian market with very interesting old names. A couple words about myself. I've been working in the HR department, but at the rise of my career, I sold American cars. It was a very interesting part of my life. But then, by accident, I started to work for the HR department, but nothing actually happens by accident. I'm very happy, and I love my job. You know, working with the youth is very interesting to me. When I started to work with Coca-Cola HR department, we got an idea. So I asked everything, let's have special scholarship program of Coca-Cola. We wanted to find the talents in all the regions. Let's appoint a scholarship for them. Let's think about the best. Maybe they would like to work for our company later on. I worked in different industries. And the interesting fact of my life that I worked in Coca-Cola, the rise of my career, and 5 years ago, before I joined our Swedish companies, I worked also in PepsiCo, two competitors which try to fight each other on a constant basis. Thank you very much for your attention. My name is Julia Jarek. I would like to tell you about my company. This is L'Oreal company. I'd like to ask you a question. You don't know which cluster the company belongs to. Do you know what is the age of the company? Are there any ideas? Particularly L'Oreal company. 109 years. Do you know how many factories L'Oreal has?
42. And one single factory in Russia, and I'm happy to work for that factory. I joined it 5 years ago, and the factory is manufacturing shampoos, balms, and dyes, colors for hair of such brands as L'Oreal Paris, and shampoos like Fructis, Ultra Dew, with the code 64. That is all products of L'Oreal factory in Kaluga region. Our factory is not that large, and it will celebrate its 9th anniversary this September. 190 people are employed there, mainly in manufacturing. What else can I tell you about the factory? I will not speak a lot. I believe that it will be better if you see it all with your own eyes. I will tell you something about myself. I have told you that I joined 5 years ago the factory as an HR specialist, like my colleague, and I can say that all my life I have been working with people, starting with kids, because since childhood I dreamt of becoming a teacher. But it so happened that in the early 1990s, everything connected with psychology became trendy, and we were tested in higher grades of school, and I decided to join my life with psychology. So I worked as a psychologist in the school that I finished, and I also headed the class. I was a psychologist for the 10th and 11th grades, and professional orientation, as we call it, was my specialization and was my favorite topic. But after I changed my sphere of activities, and it is pretty okay. We all know that in the present generation, people can change a career for 10 times during their lifetime, and I have done it twice so far. So first I was a psychologist, and now that is HR. HR is a sphere of activities that I joined around 10 years ago after I closed my story, so to say, with the school. And now I know professional orientation from the inside. And as I also worked as a recruiter, I know what I have to pay attention to when I communicate with the candidates for a job. And today you can ask myself and my colleagues all the questions you are interested in to, for example, go through a job interview successfully, to receive a job offer. So I'll be happy to entertain all your questions about my company or about anything else that you wish. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julia. Galina, the floor is yours. Good morning, dear participants and dear colleagues. My name is Galina Sedich, and I represent Henkel here. It is a little bit older than L'Oreal. It is over 140 years. It employs over 53,000 people globally. And we can speak endlessly about the company, as Henkel is truly a very interesting and diversified business. I believe you all have heard this name, but not all of you understand what it means. And what it means and what it implies is a huge number of various brands and areas. And in 140 years, we have truly become the global leader of innovations. What we present in the market today, that is cosmetics, first of all, and to continue on the topic of beauty, I believe you know perfectly well Schwarzkopf, Taft, Fass, Jos, Palette, Gliss, Kerr, Sharma, and others. We have a lot of detergents like Persil, Loska, Laska, Vernel. And we have a large area of glue and glue technologies. I believe Moment glue is the most famous product in the Russian market, but we do not limit ourselves with Moment. We are the global leader in glue technologies. And I will share with you one interesting fact. Globally today, there is around 1 billion cars. So can you imagine that each of these cars uses glue technologies of Henkel? And now glue is truly used from electronics to aerospace. You can find it everywhere. And the company aims to further develop its technologies, introduce innovations, develop brands. And a couple of words about myself. I'm HR director, and I had HR departments in Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Georgia. For Henkel, that is Vostok cluster, we have a large team. We have around 200,000 people. We have 9 offices in Russia, and we have 12 offices for sales and different marketing campaigns. We have a lot of young people employed, and I believe it is interesting to work with us. And as for how we do it, I believe I will disclose this secret a little bit to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elena. I believe everybody knows you here. But still, I will tell you, good morning, dear colleagues. We also have a brand. That is a brand of our student, the brand of our student, actually. And we train and educate talented students that are in high demand in public administration. They defend national security of this country. They are talented managers in various spheres. They are financiers, economists. The only people that we do not educate are technical specialists, but that is something that Mrs. does educate. So we focus more on managerial expertise. And a couple of words about myself after I have introduced the Academy to you. While I have been listening to other introductions, I was thinking how my career was developing, and I understood that it was developing in some zigzag movements for over 30 years. Anyway, and anyhow, I have worked with international, transnational companies, both engaged in trade and expositions, exhibitions, fairs, but still in any occupation of mine, I had something connected with education. Education is also my first degree. And it's not by chance that I returned to it, having enriched myself with experience of working with commercial bodies. And I understood that very often when you start a career in a new area, what you need is a senior who would be able to help you. And that is a motto of our Career Development Center, whom I'm head of. Career Development Center of Russian Academy of National Economy and Public Administration under the President of the Russian Federation. And we work with our dear departments of the Academy to find points of touch and to go to practical actions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues. And let us now get to the practical side of it all. We now all understand who is here in front of us, and the first question I have goes to Julia. Julia, can you share the experience of your company in terms of working with the students, graduates, career centers, if you have them? And can you drive an example of successful and maybe not very successful cases, so that we can understand from the very beginning what might go wrong from the practical business side? And a request to all of you, let us try to be concise and brief so that we can have a chance to discuss as many questions as possible and also give the audience a chance to ask their questions. Thank you. You know, in Kaluga region, we, first of all, defined education institutions, both secondary and higher, that are not far from us. Because Moscow is 85 kilometers away from our factory, as well as Kaluga is. So the nearest to us was Mifi, department that we have been cooperating with very closely in the recent 5 years, and that is a pretty fruitful and long-term contact. And though our main vacancies are not connected with engineering or managerial staff, but such employees as lab technicians or environmentalists or beginners in engineering. That is why we address and approach those universities that are close to us and that train and educate experts and specialists that we need. As for the practice that we have today, first of all, an environmentalist who is a graduate of this university has been with us for 4 years already. Assistant engineer works for us that helps in lean production, 5S, SMAT, Optima. So that is something that we are actively introducing in our manufacturing. Spool as well. So these are some particular programs to optimize the efficiency of manufacturing. That is connected with the manager of optimizing the processes. Because in modern world, we have to be flexible and mobile. So now we are introducing lean production at a full scope. And as an example that did not succeed that much, I can tell you about lab technicians in chemistry. We have 2 brilliant chairs in MIFI, and we try to engage 2 or 3 experts annually from there, but we cannot make them interested. And I believe I know why. And in Kaluga region, there are a lot of industrial parks, 16 of them. And out of them, there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies. So to us, they are the main competitors to this end. And we fight with them for talents. So in pharmaceutical cluster, the conditions are, as a rule, better than ours, though ours are not that bad. Ours are usually average or even higher the average, including all the social benefits. But it is still more interesting for chemical specialists to go for pharmaceutical cluster. And I can tell you that I have a daughter who finishes school, and her choice now for higher education is technologist engineer in pharmaceuticals. And I have industrial tourism around different companies because we have an HR club thanks to Coleman Services, whose representative is moderating the meeting, and I'm thankful to them. So we have a chance to visit different plants and factories, and I can see that engineering technologists, technical specialists hold the future. So they are really in need in various clusters, and this job is very interesting. So that is something that I can tell you about our experience. And I would also like to add that I have seen a representative of this university that is our partner, actually. And now we are preparing cases, 3 cases, and students will present their papers in May. First is connected with environment and waste management. The second will be about a warehouse, and the students have given us an idea to use a quadrocopter for inventory checks, so that is using digital. And the third one is communication in the security sphere. So that is some projects that we work with now. So there are a lot of ideas, but the wish for cooperation should go from both hands. Thank you, Julia. I believe that Kaluga region is one of the most difficult in terms of competition and fight for talents? Yes, it is, because we have a lot of industrial parks. And as for our industrial park in Navorsina that we are located in, we have 28 residents. So competition is really high. And as of end of last year, the unemployment in Kaluga region was 0.3%. So you understand perfectly well, dear students, how we need you and how important you are to us. Another difficulty, by the way, when we cooperated with the Financial Academy under the government of the Russian Federation, not everybody would like to go to Kaluga and mostly to manufacturing sites. Well, I can say that mobility is another huge topic, and we are lacking it in this country still. So I believe there should be a call, first of all, to the government. We should call on the government to run a special program that definitely would not be cheap, and a call on young people in the audience to look around the world, because the whole world moves not only within their countries, but from a country to another country. But we are somehow tied to our birthplace. Maria, what would you like to add? I would like to admit that it is hard for us to compete with Kaluga region, but we have two factories in Tula region. Naturally, the density of residents is not that high there, but still the issue is the same. And we also cooperate with the high schools, and I believe that one of the largest difficulties that we face is work with the students in terms of advertising the opportunities that they might find. And every time I go to the factory, I catch myself thinking that the lifestyle and the quality of life there is lower than in Moscow, because you get used to your lifestyle and your, so to say, tempo, but when you go there, for example, when I leave the factory at around 7 in the evening, I thought that my time would be spent in vain. But then I understood, after I spent the evening with the kids, going to cinema and to have dinner, that there is some life beyond job. Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask a question to Natalia. When you introduced yourself, you said that something does not match in terms of interaction between the career center and high schools, because you are interested in your graduates to have a good job placement. And this interaction between the career center and the higher educational institutions and the employers, I also agree with you that something does go wrong, but as I'm not within this process, I'm a little bit to the side of it, though I also work for HR. So I do not understand what is in the way of hearing each other. You are all now sitting next to each other, and we are all speaking the same language. So what impedes mutual understanding and adaptation? You see, actually, there are a lot of challenges and difficulties here. First of all, 4,000 employees work for a university. Each of them has their contacts. We have over 1,600 companies. So physically, 3 employees will not be able to process every request of these 1,600 companies. So there has to be some clear and logical entry point to a university that would be able to assist, to help, to send these or those people to this or that chair or department to find the contact person whom you would be comfortable in cooperating with. Furthermore, somewhere the employers should find an answer. For example, as for Kaluga, I know how many guys I receive from which regions when I receive an order, and I can say that I have 150 people from Kaluga. I can name their departments, specialization, and so on and so forth.
If we ask such a question, we have special diagnostic tools. So your potential clients are the following to take a look at them, and the company can work with them. So the companies don't have this response, so they're open to everyone. And it means huge work, huge cost, but the outcome is very low and not very significant. And the difficulty is as to find the right entry point to get the particular results they strive for. So Kaluga region, for instance, how should the guys from all the region, I believe that in RANEPA the situation is the same, how should they know what factory is in Kaluga, which factory they would like to work at? In the career center we have found such a component, but this is all about costs. We have our own bus, we get the guys together and we get them to the excursion far from Moscow, not only Moscow region, but Moscow region itself is a big problem. No one can give you the exact answer, which are the existing companies and factories in Moscow you can cooperate with. Everyone thinks that there is only a sales department in Moscow. This is not true. There are many manufacturing companies, but we don't have an Moscow government special career center which is going to give this answer. We have special Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Education, but there is no one single owner of the whole process which can give the response to the companies and to the high schools. Thank you very much for your input. I have the following question. This is our topic. I would like to support my colleague. I totally agree with Natalia that the entry point for the companies should exist in the higher school. We have a very multidimensional structure, and we are trying to be a kind of navigator which can give you an answer to these questions. And the names are so sophisticated that you find it difficult to understand what is what. But I would like to mention one thing, which is a very huge obstacle. When we think out how to facilitate the job placement, these are two old people, two adults, career center, try to think out how great it might be. This is kind of a parent position. That's how I bring up my kids. You know, based on my experience, you need to do that, this and that. This is going to be the shortcut and the most successful one. But my kids, as my students, tell me that we don't want this way. We don't want to move in this direction. We want it to have different. The more questions we're going to ask in terms of their opinion and to give them freedom to say what they really want and how they really want it to have, the easier it will be for us to give the right answer. You know, I would like to give the room for initiative to the guys. This is the objective of the higher school, to create this initiative and the platform, the field of initiative for the guys, and we, based on our experience and contacts, are going to facilitate that process. Thank you very much. All right, very brief comment. You know, the companies representatives are here, they're going to support me. You know, every company, we know the competences which are required, leadership or professional competences, but every company has its own mission and set of goals. And in the higher school, you need to give this answer as early as possible. Which company the higher school works with, which competences are required, to have the guys to find the resources for the development of these competences and skills. How we manage to find the resources being a center for the career development, there are only 3 people of us. We decided to create the mentorship and the ambassadorship. So we offer the companies to announce the contest for the ambassador selection. Ambassador is a student who is motivated, who is ready for the self-development and understands what he or she wants, understands that he or she wants to work for this company, he's getting ready for this contest. The company gives a special scholarship. The ambassador is doing key things. He is the connection point between the company and the higher school. The ambassador helps to arrange events, to the ambassador improve the competences. He's actually on the kind of payroll of the company for the scholarship. This is a huge resource which is going to find a solution to all the problems both in the higher school and the company in terms of communication. This is a very good example. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the floor right now. I have the question to the audience. I know the exact example. My son, being a student, used to be an ambassador, but he didn't get paid for that, and he started to work for a different company, and he's very satisfied with this fact. But such experience exists. I'd like to ask the question. I'd like to apologize for not giving the floor to you, but we have the following question. We need to move further on. I have the question to the audience, to the students. Can you find one person? How do you see? How do you believe what the process of selection should be? How do you see it from your side? How the companies select the young and talented employees, would-be employees? Do you have an experience of like that? How do you see the process? No one understands how the process works actually? Can you stand out and say a couple of words? I'm not going to ask you to speak at length. How do you see the process? Good afternoon. I'm the student of Master's Moscow Representative Office of RANEPA. I believe that's a very difficult process to work for an international company. It's very difficult task. Sometimes you need to wait a year for interpretation approval. You're talking about the internship program. I'm just starting to get to know that, try to find the best options, and according to the feedback of my friends and acquaintances and in the internet, I found out that it takes about a year. And if the CV is not liked by the employer, the request can be frozen for a year or two, not to look into the CV within this period. It's a huge level of uncertainty. Of course, whatever ambitions you have, there are always the barriers in place. But how to solve these barriers, I would like to get to know here. Thank you very much for your experience. You'd like to add something? Please use the mic. Thank you very much. I'd like to share the experience. My name is Lyudmila Haktoretsky. I'm the head of the Student Program Center and Initiatives of Cherkizova Group. This is the agricultural sector. Our company singled out these into specific area of work. We have different ways to do that. The first one is that we are moving to the social networks. We have a contact account. We get connected with the key agricultural higher schools. The information on the internship programs, on the practices, is provided there. We have a very interesting event which we call this Cherkizova tour, and when we move out and reach key high schools and colleges in Russia, we have a team of speakers who are well trained. These are not the representative of HR and HR from businesses. We have special program which we move out and have special professional events. And as the outcome of these events, we have a kind of a pool of students who want to provide their candidacy for the contest. And the next stage is the contest for the selection itself. Of course, of our hunters participate in that. And we cooperate with the centers of career directly with a special centers in higher schools. I'd like to apologize for interrupting. And the question was to the students, but not to you. I'd like to apologize. I've said that I wanted to listen to the opinion of the student. I'd like to apologize for interrupting you once again. Thank you for the comment. Anyway, Olga, the question to you. What are your expectations for the students to understand? What are the expectations of the students of your particular company, of today's graduates? Who is an ideal candidate whom you'll be ready to take on board? The person doesn't understand what to do. Uncertainty is a threat. What should she do? What kind of person she should become to work for a company, for you to want to take this company on board and to promote this person, not to give internship opportunity, but to take this person on payroll, to teach the person, to promote the person. What is an ideal candidate for you? Everything is quite simple in our company and transparent. There are some values of the company, there is a mission of the company, and the values of the companies are quite universal. And if a person demonstrates the behavior, we are ready to everything which is connected with the news in our industry, innovation technologies. The person is ready to generate ideas, to find new solutions, to offer solutions, to be proactive. This is the first set of qualities and traits we'd like to see in an ideal candidate. And the second value is to strive for perfection. Striving for perfection is to do well. All the deadlines should be complied with. If you promise something, you need to fulfill that. If you have agreed on something, you are to keep your promise. Everything's quite simple. We're not going to invent a wheel for you. And the third value is to grow together. Everything which is connected within the team cooperation, cross-functional cooperation. We work with the clients, with the suppliers, so on and so forth. Being ready to find common ground, to find mutually beneficial solutions for the greater good of all the parties. Win-win approach. This is one of the qualities we'd like to see in our candidates, not only in students. Undoubtedly, the students are to strive for that. And I believe that we are not the only company which voices such requirements. They are quite relevant. How proactive the person is, how he's ready to take on additional responsibilities and scope of work, to be self-sufficient, to be determined, to know what he or she wants, how to achieve that. But if you don't know how to do that, you need to know where to find this information. That is the ideal candidate for our company. Thank you very much, Olga. I'd like to add that I'm only the IT sector representative. Being an innovative company, we're interested in the skills of the future. And the colleagues would agree probably that the academic education is very important for the business, but such skills as interpersonal communication, this is the set of knowledge and expertise from different fields and the capability to use necessary information at a particular point of time. And very important quality is to understand and analyze figures, information. We live in the age of information where sometimes it is very important to choose the most important information. That's what we take a look at. Thank you very much for your input. You know why CV of young specialists always in the folders in HR departments? The reason is that we have a lot of CVs like that. You're all great, brilliant education. There is no experience and maximum desire to work for the companies. Yes, that's what is required. What candidate do we take a look at? Someone who stands out, We shouldn't forget that we are living in the 21st century, and there are not only career centers, but there are different ways which you should use. International companies announce different contests, offer solutions to the business cases, move to the universities, giving lectures, offering different research projects. If you take part in that, of course, you become visible on the horizon of the company. They pay attention at brilliant candidates and graduates, and they have a better chance to work for the companies. I'm going to give you an example. For example, in Henkel company, over 8 years, had Henkel Innovation Challenge contest, when in different companies we announced that we are ready to listen to your projects, how the Henkel company, how our brands and our products might look like in 50 years. That might be a very interesting project of a dreamer. The thing we wanted to see how the students' approach was, and there is a number of examples, both in Russia and abroad, when we took on board the winners of that contest, or those who were bright, because we see that the person had a very proactive position. We saw the desire for the development, the strive for the development. He was determined to move forward. And of course, we couldn't but pay attention at such a star, such an valued asset. We need to get a grasp of this person and not to let him or her work for our competitor. So it's a huge advice to you. Use all the opportunities. Just do not send on your CV and wait for years. You need to be very proactive. What is happening around? What is organized? What is planned? Where you can take part in order to become visible on the horizon of the labor market. Thank you very much for your answer. Marina, could you give an example of a bright and interesting, successful career development in your company of a recruited student or a graduate whom you took on board and the person developed into someone from scratch? Over 5 years of work in the company, we don't have such an example. I cannot give you an example. But in different companies, we have different examples. Quite a recent example, we have also student programs. We have 3 types of student programs. We have summer internship programs. We have 2 years school of development for the leadership potential among the graduates. Starting last year, we have programs aimed at cooperation with the high school. We go to a region, for instance, to the 9th grade, and we arrange professional orientation for them. You can go in for college, university. You have different opportunities like that. So student programs are in abundance, but sometimes it's very difficult to compete with big companies, which arrange bigger projects and programs like that. I'm going to explain why I'm saying all that. Sometimes we try to increase our reach in terms of the search for the talented students. Quite recently, we had a girl, Kristina Papunina, who started to work for our company, and she is originally from Irkutsk. We found her there. She spent her own money to fly here, participated in the contest. We were happy to take her on board our company, and after a half year of internship, we have international internship. She went to Europe and then to Canada, and we were not able to get her back. We were told, they apologized, but they said that they were going to fight for her because she's a brilliant star asset in medical project. Now she's responsible for the project, and they wanted her there. That was the success story of hers. I'd like to share a story like that at the head office in Moscow. The RU Moscow arranges international brainstorming case contest. VK L'Oreal Tally, you can follow the news and the story of 6 years old when we decided to take a result of this program a person as an assistant to the director, and then the Kate became the specialist responsible for the production planning. And 2 years ago, she moved to France to the head office. She's working there. Everyone is very happy that we've had found her as a result of this case contest. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to give the floor to our speakers. I'd like to support Galina, and everyone is quite agreeable in this respect. This advice, be proactive. This is the main thing to advise the companies in a good. A lot of people want to work in a good company. In order to be visible on the horizon of the company, you need to do something on your own.
Попадает на стол.
And naturally, when you receive a huge pile of CVs, it is hard to select someone from there. And it is even good that so far we have a CV and live communication, but with digitalization that is going on, like the head of NGO yesterday shared with us, where I moderated a session. So he said that his daughter, and they live in France, and the daughter is in France. So he said that his daughter had gone through a job interview for an American company, which he did not name, but it doesn't matter. So the job interview went with a robot, and she was employed. So that is digitalization. But I believe that is a hard matter for HR, and I cannot feel easy and calm when there is too sharp a shift towards robotics. And I would like to share my example with you. One of the best, brightest examples. Our student took part in an ambassador competition for Rusal, a large company, and she was selected for internship after the competition. But before that, she went to a career center, and she was engaged in ISIC and the youth forum. Then she ran championships on cases, and she was head of the project. And as a result of the internship, the company, around 6 months later, offered her a position of head of department on environment or HSE. But the main competences were proactivity and experience of running and preparing projects. As for a CV, can I ask the question to an audience? Could you raise your hands, please, those who have a CV? That is good, because as a rule, just there are very few hands. And you know that it takes more than a day to write a CV. It can take you 2 weeks even. And you know that a CV is compiled for a specific vacancy, for a specific company. And you should have a portfolio that you have to work with all the time if you wish to be noticed. And any recruiter will spend a minute maximum looking through your CV. And if it is not something special, it will be in the bin. Thank you very much. And Elena Lopatova, I would like to address the next question to you. We have discussed a little bit the potential employee that the companies are seeking. Is there a difference between an ideal, maybe all your graduates are ideal, and reality? Because graduates might have some drawbacks, and if they do, what are they? And we say a lot that the current generation is different from previous ones, and our generation, that is older, sometimes finds it's hard to find mutual understanding So what is it like, and what are the advantages and disadvantages? And what drives future career growth, and what can hinder it? You see, actually, that is a difficult question because it is critical both for the business and for the student. Talking about the current graduate that we have worked with for the recent years, because we have recruiting programs not only in Russia but in other countries with developing economy. And as for what we see, the millennial generation has a very interesting mindset. They want it all now. And they know that there is ideal and limit somewhere high, but they do not know how much time it will take them to attain it. And business has to adapt and make conclusions themselves, because first we need to work with this audience, but on the other hand, to strike balance and to achieve the goals that the business, the company has, we need to do that. Apart from that, we see the growth of thinking, so to say, and an ability to adapt to conditions, an ability to foresee conditions and strive for the future. That is what we are observing. Thank you very much. Galina, and a question to you. Could you share your experience, if you do have any experience of interacting with career centers, not just with some abstract high schools, but with career centers? Are you in touch with any, in direct touch? And if you are, does everything go right or wrong? And if something goes wrong, why, do you think? Actually, our experience of interacting with career centers is not that rich, and we use career centers, first of all, as the first contact point to be able to understand whom to address afterwards, to understand who would be interested in this or that university, in our services or our information. And yes, there are some interesting projects both in Moscow and in the regions when career centers helped us to engage students in different tours around our plants and factories or in business games. And that is truly interesting. We can say that Henkel is not a company that annually engages hundreds of young graduates. We have more focused recruiting, and very often we can see that career centers are not that interested in companies like ours, because we can recruit 5 people in 1 year and then leave this center without recruiting anyone for a couple of other years. But career centers need cooperation so that you recruit at least 10 people a year, every year. I can share our successful experience. For over 4 years, we have been in close cooperation with High School of Economics, and that is an English language program of international business headed by the chair of World Economy and Politics, and with the help of Career Development Center and professors themselves, we were offered to become part of their studying process. And every month, representatives of different functions of our company go to High School of Economics and give lectures with their cases, presentations on various fields. As for what it gives us, first, believe me, the heads that go to give lectures to students are highly motivated, as students are a really favorable audience, and for us it is a chance to share the experience and to probe whether the students are interested in that. And for students, that is a chance to learn from particular examples, to see how large companies operate, how departments interact, what they pay attention to, how the strategy is put together, how marketing runs, what logistics is. So I believe that is truly a very interesting example. And we have around 9 or 10 lectures of this kind annually. So that is every month that we meet with the students. And afterwards, we put forward an idea of various projects and also afterwards offer internships to the best students. Thank you very much, Galina. Now I have a question to all of you, so to the representatives of the companies, not high schools so far. So we have two representatives of career centers of two high schools. Do you need them? Do you need career centers to interact with? As your audience is not the high school itself or the career center. Your audience is the students. You need them. They are your future employees or potential leaders in your companies. I'm sorry, but do you think that is something excessive, a barrier that impedes the shortcut, or is it an assistant? And if it is an assistant, what do you think the career center should do? Or what should it do to be an assistant? Or is it better to eliminate it, to approach the students and graduates directly or in some other way? Do you have any ideas on this topic? Olga, please. I decided to be proactive. Yes, that's why I switched on the mic. I will give you an example of negative interaction, because we have a factory on coffee production in Tver, and we were seeking for young specialists, and there is a Tver Polytechnical Institute, and my colleagues decided to approach the career center. And I will quote, there is an old man sitting there who says, I don't know why you came up to me, approach the dean. So our ladies approached the dean, and he said, you know, the good ones have been selected in the first year, and as for the rest, I will not recommend them to you because they are idiots. So that is a quote. Therefore, there are examples of this kind, but still, we are studious, and we decided to put up an advertisement, and we managed to find a star. So that is an example when we recruited a student for a position of mechanic assistant, and now he's head of the production shift. So that is, as for the career center, is a negative example because it really was something unnecessary. But still, I can agree with the colleagues that the career centers are needed to be like an entry point, so that the employer can find some information on whom particularly to approach in high school. So thank you, Olga, for your comment, but it means that that is a human factor. If the career center has a person with a drive and with willingness to assist students and to promote their higher education institution, then they will succeed. And Julia, please. I will agree with what has been voiced. I liked it. And I liked the words of Natalia about ambassadors school. That is something that we have been willing to arrange as well for a long time. And thanks to this forum, I have contact details of RANEPA, and I hope to have contact details of yours as well. Because before that, the impression that I had was, why should I go to Moscow? Because no one will come to our place from here. But now I understand that it is really needed. And furthermore, another point that I take away is that you need to agree from the very beginning on what profile you need. Because how we entered Bauman University in Kaluga, we needed lean production specialists. And in Kaluga's Bauman Institute, there is a person who is connected with professional orientation, and I tell him, I need a person who will help us to optimize processes. What faculties, departments, and chairs you have that can give me this student? And then they help me and they tell me, you need to go to the Department of Innovations. At least like that. And if it is a closer interaction, when I say that we need people like this and that, with these or those theoretical, this or that theoretical skill, knowledge, and we will add on that, that would be great. Thank you. Natalia, you wanted to say something, and could you be brief so that we can give the audience a chance to ask questions as well? I would like to ask your question to the students. What do they think? Do they need career centers? And another comment that I would like to make, I believe when recruiting people for career centers, the main competence should be openness and communication skills. And that should be people that will never say that they don't know a way out. And I would like to comment on it briefly as well. Yes, career centers are needed, at least to get to high school and have a chance to communicate all the richness of programs that we have. So they are needed to that end, but if, in addition to that, we could receive a kind of selection service, at least at a primitive stage, that we have these many people from the regions with these many skills and so on and so forth. Thank you. As far as I understand, you are not a student, so I would like first to ask my question to students, and afterwards I will give you the floor. So I would like to readdress my question to the students. Do you need career centers? Good morning, Elena Husnudinova. First year of a master's degree, Moscow region branch of RANEPA. To tell you the truth, only thanks to this forum we learned that RANEPA has this career center, because our branch does not have it. And I believe that is a good chance for students to understand who they would like, what they would like to be, what job they would like to have, because this career center helps students to find themselves, to understand what to start with. For example, last week we received bachelor's degree. Now we study for master's degree, and we face job hunting, and we don't know what to start with. Headhunter and Superjob are good, yes, but when we start sending our CVs and receive no feedback, no response, we don't know what to do. We start thinking that we had not chosen the career correctly. So I believe that a career development center could help us a lot. So I believe it is a good idea. Let us respond something to that. Thank you very much. And our Career Development Center of the Academy naturally works not only with Moscow campus, but with branches as well. So please address us. We are in the main page of the website. You can find us there. And Naturally, we do provide consulting, but you have to be ready to our pretty tough position. We always ask a question: what have you done to find something? And if job seeking to you is an important thing and action that you are ready to invest yourself into, we are ready to help you. And if job hunting is find a job to me and place me there, and I'd prefer a leather chair and a view over Moscow River, that is not to us, that is to parents. And job hunting is also a job. And I also have a comment to Julia, who said that a career center is needed as a navigator. And she also said about finding a colleague who will be eyes and so on and so forth. We communicate closely with our professional community and with career centers.
And around us, we have these contacts and people. On the 28th of February, is our academy and the student forum. You're going to see yourself just right. The best career centers of higher schools, not only of Moscow, but the branch offices from different cities. So we make it open for the career centers of higher schools from different cities, not only from the branch offices of RANEPA. So please welcome to the roundtables and the contents. We are the many. But actually, there are a lot of other different centers. We are open and we're ready, and we have sparkling eyes. So thank you very much. There was a comment or a question, so I'd like to apologize. So I would like to give the floor to the lady. We are running out of time, so let us be brief. Can I be heard? Good afternoon, my name is Olga. A couple of words about myself, not to be thrown stones at. I've been working in HR over 20 years, more than 11 years, with the students now listening to our discussion. I see myself as an expert and as a special center. We're doing our utmost to provide the opportunities for the guys. But you know, the essence of our discussion at career centers and higher schools, the students don't understand each other. Even how we talk with you. We speak our own language. I've experienced people working in companies for 20 years and more, but the question is, even our discussion is called the experience of the high schools and the companies. We don't have any representative of the students who would say, the guys, we don't understand what you're doing with us. We are adults, experienced people, who have graduated. We even know what the guys are, but the students do not participate in this process at all. And we do not make them participate in this process, actually. If we try to move into this direction, do not do this or do that, if we ask the guys how they want to be dealt with and how they want to see their assistants, we will be faster at complying with the needs. This is just a comment. Thank you very much for your comment. A couple words about myself. This is a professional question. I got my latest education 51 years old, RANEPA, and the latest certificate at 55 years. I'm speaking about the latest education degree. So the question to you, Yelena. First of all, as a graduate of RANEPA, I have the direct relations to the mentor innovation projects, student projects, and so on and so forth. 2 days ago, Dmitry Anatolovich, and yesterday at the session, Sergei Chubais confirmed one of the main threats of today's. This is the digit and everything which is connected with the digit. Karakin is the Deputy Minister of the Economy Development. He said that in 2022 we are going to see the first 3D printed car. In 2025, everything is going to be transferred to blockchain, talking about the reports, legal services. In 2026, we're going to see the first BOD member who is going to be a robot. As you understand, we're moving to digital, and a huge number of students, young specialists, and so on and so forth, are going to find themselves not in demand. That is the question I have. So what particularly do you know such a threat in the center of Korea, and what are you doing in this respect? I'm not going to have the floor anymore. I'm going to say to the ladies, so we don't have much time. So let me answer your question. We don't have much time. Do you know the threat? Yes, I'm aware of the threat, not only the digitalization threat, but other threats which are in the way of a successful career. We do work on that. How we work? I don't want to use this platform to promote my center. Just visit our website, to the news feed. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. They are available. So we do work. This is in brief. We have other questions. I believe that the answer to this question can be the good education, good quality education. If you have a good education, you are ready for everything which is coming with robotics, with the digitals. The question, please. The question itself. The Institute for Security, is business ready to work with a student in terms of educating this student, not in terms of preparing for themselves, but in terms of the social perspective, to prepare good specialists for the greater good of the country. Since you have this opportunity, who is going to answer this question? May I share experience, very brief. In HP company, we have international initiative when we go to school and we teach how to code. These are not the would-be candidates of our company. We get them interested in math, in coding, and they decide where to go. This is one of the answers to your questions. As the school is the beginning of a preparation. Mic to the speaker, the interpreters cannot translate without the mic. The interpreters are still incapable of translating without the mic. I do not understand the question. As all our career, we have been taking students for summer internship programs, for practices, for 2 months. Do you think that they are all ready? We have 2-year program of preparing people, not only for our companies. There are universal skills and competences. The person being engaged in the project, he learns to be the project head and the responsible for the project implementation. We go to higher schools, we give lectures, we participate in roundtables. We are ready to give education. In all different forms, we are ready to participate in the staff and employees' preparation. That's why I don't answer the question. There are a lot of questions. Last question, the final one, I'd like to apologize. I hope that the colleagues are going to find time after our discussion because we cannot stay here any longer, and we're going to answer a question. Please stay with us. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sidona, the Career Center of Moscow with the University. First of all, I would like to thank our colleagues for the presentations and their speeches. I have the one question. You've mentioned that the biggest problem we have is the gap between the level of competences the students have after the graduation of the university and the expected competences and skills by the employers. So to solve this problem from my perspective, and Natalia has mentioned about this, it is necessary within the whole educational process to develop these competences and skills. To this end, the state has practices, internship programs. Please, the question. I'd like to draw attention to the students' councils, but as far as I know, there are only 10% of the students participate in these proactive things. Within the question to the colleagues, how to motivate the students, what are the mechanisms, can you share with us? And the second, I have the suggestion. I have the experience of organizing great events with the students. This is assessment centers story. The companies often arrange these events with the employees, but I'm trying to move these to the student community. So if someone is interested, so let us work together and communicate on the organization like that. I'm ready to speak about that and to work with you. Anyone is going to answer this question? Very brief. The motivation of the student, this is everyday work. This is a huge effort required. As the colleagues were right saying that when you aim at the demand of the student, it is easier to motivate the student. This is the backbone of our motivation activity. We ask the student what they need, and after that, we give and bring this idea to the employer. Thank you very much. I'm asking a little bit different question. What do you want? That is my question. Please try to understand yourself, what you might get interested in. Try to find something. If you do not do that, you will not be required by anyone. So this is a piece of advice. I had a lot of questions, a lot of plans. We have a very interesting, interactive discussion. Thank you very much for participation. I'd like to thank our speakers. 1.5 hours is not enough. But if anyone has something outstanding, we're going to leave this room. We are to do that. And we're going to answer your questions beyond this room. Thank you very much for your participation.